Hey guys, what's going on? My name is Tyler, and today we are going to be doing What If Naruto Had Samehada Part 3. Now, if you guys haven't seen the other parts, I suggest you guys go check out the playlist down below, and with that being said, let's just get straight into Part 3, because we do have a lot to cover.
Hey, collecting rings like a Sonic. Bitches wanna party. My wrist getting heavy. Got 'em on a diet, yeah. Flex like I'm Hogan. Yobi's coming over.
Now, you guys are probably wondering, oh, what's so different about this version of the Pain Assault that is, in comparison to the canon one? And the difference is that Kakuzu and Kisame are going to be partaking in the Pain Assault and actually fighting alongside Pain. With this, we would get Kakuzu and Kisame helping out Pain obviously fight in the Leaf, and they're obviously attacking a bunch of Leaf Shinobi, murdering people, and the Diva Path and Kakuzu would stay close to each other, encountering Kakashi and facing him. Meanwhile, Kisame would be fighting some Leaf fodder, and as Kakuzu and the Diva Path are facing off against Kakashi, Kakashi would be forced to use his MS once again, and eventually he would be killed, just like how he was in canon with, Pain trapping him and then using the nail to kill him. Now, as for Choji and Choza, they would be fighting the likes of the Asura Path, which they would have no way to counter him, so they would inevitably be killed, and sadly Choji and Choza die in this timeline alongside Kakashi. And remember, no Sakura here, so Sakura isn't even going to be able to heal any wounded ninja, and only the fodder medical ninja are only going to be able to heal them up, and Tsunade is just kind of in the Hokage office contemplating on what to do now and what's going to be her next plan of attack. And once she sees Shizune below her, she's going to go down and try and help her out, and this would then lead into Shizune getting her soul stolen and Tsunade witnessing this. Tsunade would then be enraged, and she would then come out of the office and straight up deck the Human Path right in the face. He had no idea it was coming, so he just got blitzed, and was also left in critical condition due to Tsunade's punch. Tsunade would then make her way down towards where the Diva Path and Kakuzu are, and when the Diva Path orders Kakuzu to take her out, Kakuzu doesn't mind due to her having a potential high bounty count due to her being the Hokage. Tsunade isn't having it, and she activates her Byakugo seal, which then leads into Kakuzu trying to blitz towards her and just knock her out, but with one punch, Kakuzu would be completely overwhelmed by Tsunade's power and would be sent flying over the Leaf Village. One of Kakuzu's hearts were actually destroyed during that process, so he's going to have a little bit of time trying to recover, and this would then lead into Pain versus Tsunade, which Tsunade would try and pull a Tank Top Master to Garo and try and smack the ground to paralyze him. Tsunade seemingly stuns Pain, then goes over to try and hit him with one last punch, which should do the job. However, Pain, due to him being able to perceive Tsunade in time, uses Almighty Push in time and pushes her away. She would be able to immediately recover from this, but still she couldn't get the attack off, which is the most important thing to do right now. After Tsunade easily recovers, she would then say how she's the Hokage and she's not going to let Pain ruin her village, as she would then punch the ground once again, but this time all the force that she basically put into that punch would basically allow the rocks from the underground to be risen up. It's kind of weird to explain, but due to her high levels of chakra control, she's able to essentially put the amount of force that she puts in her punch and actually allow that force to come up from the ground in a certain spot, which she manages to do against Pain to actually let out some rubble so that he can't see her. Essentially, her punching the ground would be able to cause enough terrain to fall off to the point to where Pain can't really visibly see Tsunade, and now he's trying to go off of instincts. He would then just try and cast a large ranged Almighty Push, but Tsunade would then clothesline Pain from the back, and she would then punch Pain right on his head and send him flying. So she managed to tag him due to him not being able to see her, and she kind of figured that out due to Pain, literally seeing her and perceiving her and then knocking her away. And before that, Tsunade literally stunned him, so there was no way for him physically to actually overpower her. He couldn't do anything against her, and the minute that he manages to perceive her, she's just magically knocked out away. Tsunade is a smart fighter, so she would be able to figure this out, and she manages to take advantage of this and actually get a good hit on Pain. Pain would be hit by a devastating blow that would nearly kill him, and he would then be forced to run to the Naraka Path to heal him up, and as Tsunade is trying to chase him down, she would then be clotheslined by Kakuzu, who got done recovering from her attack. Kakuzu gets out his weird black tendrils to try and pierce Tsunade's skin, but this would then lead into Tsunade being able to evade Kakuzu and just punch him away again and knock him out. At that point, she would then run over to Pain, but it's already too late as the Naraka Path just got done healing the Diva Path, and the Diva Path is now at 100%. At that point, Pain sees Tsunade as a threat and he can't really take her out under normal means, and so he jumps up into the air and casts his Chaotic Shinra Tensei, which does damage Kisame and the Paths of Pain, but mostly damages Konoha. We could say maybe Kisame and the rest of the Akatsuki get out the way in time, and Tsunade distributes all of her chakra essentially to the Leaf Village so that they can try and survive. And in Sacrifice, Tsunade would just start looking old again and looking pruny and looking ugly. This seems to be the end for Tsunade, but luckily Naruto comes in the nick of time, and like in canon, he would then proceed to fight Pain in Sage Mode, but this time Kisame and Kakuzu are here to back him up. Back up Pain, that is, not Naruto. Naruto, it's going to be a much harder fight for him, but he does have Samehada on his side, so maybe that'll make the fight easier. We'll see. Now, Naruto with Samehada would then immediately rush into battle with 3 Shadow Clones being summoned and rushing at Kisame. Kisame would prepare for battle as he wants his sword back and wants to kill Naruto, and this would then lead into 2 Shadow Clone Narutos blitzing Kisame, grabbing him by the arms, and then 1 Naruto with Samehada slashing down at Kisame, essentially calling it a Sage Samehada combo. I don't know what Naruto would call it. Maybe the Uzumaki Sword Barrage. I don't know. That seems kind of ass. Yeah, that was ass. Let's retcon that. But no, regardless, Kisame is just getting bopped by this version of Naruto, and this would then lead into Kakuzu trying to fight. And like how Naruto defeated Kakuzu in the canon timeline, he would then try out his new technique that he wanted to show off, which is the Rasen Shuriken, but the Sage Mode version where he's able to throw it and expand it. The human path alongside Kakuzu would succumb to the expanding Rasen Shuriken as all the other Paths of Pain barely managed to evade, and this would then lead into Sage Mode Naruto taking down the 6 Paths of Pain one by one. Now, there's another Akatsuki member that's actually alive other than Pain, and that's Kisame. He did get hit by Sage Mode Naruto with Samehada, but he didn't die, but he barely managed to survive, and this would lead into him slowly trying to keep his distance away from the battle, and eventually managing to escape, without them even noticing. Now, Naruto vs. Pain is kind of the same as in canon, but this time with Samehada. I feel like after Naruto loses Sage Chakra and Pain seemingly has him under the ropes, I could see Naruto maybe stealing some of Pain's chakra previously while he's fighting him in Sage Mode, so maybe Pain wouldn't be able to do some certain attacks, or maybe be weaker so Naruto can compete with him more. But I think in the end, I think a cool way to kind of have Samehada be useful here is to have him have some Sage Chakra stored within him to actually assist Naruto. As, you know, he was there when Naruto was doing his training, and obviously he would get used to some Sage Chakra because, you know, he's being used by Sage Mode Naruto who's using Sage Chakra. So I'm going to say here that Samehada in the nick of time manages to get to Naruto and fuse with him, which would allow him to go into perfect Sage Mode and also get a natural power increase due to him fusing with Samehada. This kind of amp, again, allows Kisame to kind of get a Biju type amp, so it would at least scale above the 6-tailed cloak that Naruto went into against Pain, and this time Naruto is actually having a very good mental state and isn't going completely crazy, and Hinata is actually alive in this timeline. Instead, we have Naruto just being so much more powerful than his 6-tailed counterpart due to him getting a Samehada amp because he fused with them, and the Samehada amp is kind of like a Biju state. He would just body the Diva Path eventually, and he would then eventually use Sage Mode to detect where Nagato is and still talk no jutsu, and Nagato would revive everyone that has been killed in the Pain Assault. Now, in this timeline, Nagato's jutsu only applies to the good people and not Kakuzu or anything like that, so Kakuzu is actually dead, and Kisame would still eventually go back to the Akatsuki base. Now, I'm going to say here that maybe like a clone of White Zetsu or a copy of White Zetsu would be there, and this would then lead into White Zetsu informing Kisame as to what's going on, and Kisame would then eventually meet up with Tobi, and this leads into them going into the 5 Kage Summit. Team Taka still fails on capturing Killer Bee, and they still go out to the 5 Kage Summit to go and fight Danzo. I'm going to say here that the 5 Kage Summit is pretty much the same as in canon, but the only difference here is that Kisame would help Sasuke face the Raikage and maybe catch him lacking with the Water Prison Jutsu or a Water Shark Bomb Jutsu that actually drains chakra. But once the Raikage goes into his V2 cloak, it's over for Kisame as he then gets massively outsped along with Sasuke. This still leads into Gaara coming in and saving Sasuke and trying to fight him and convince him to come to the light side, and eventually this leads into Sasuke using his Susanoo and then escaping with Karin and Kisame, while Suigetsu and Jugo would seemingly be killed, but they would actually be later revealed to be alive like in canon. The fourth Great Ninja War is still called, and Kisame would just let Sasuke take care of everything else, and Kisame would back him up when facing off against Kakashi and Sakura, and Sasuke would face off against Naruto by himself, and eventually Sasuke, Kisame, and Tobi then head out. After this, the fourth Great Ninja War would then begin, and Kisame would still go out to face Killer Bee, but he would actually probably lose to Killer Bee because he has no Samehada to help him regen, and he would eventually be killed by Killer Bee in his V2 state. And this would then lead into the fourth Great Ninja War, starting with no reanimated army because, as we all know, Yamato actually died, which means there's no way to power them up, or the Guru statue. And this means that there's really nothing to really power up the reanimated army, which essentially means it's only going to be a White Zetsu army with Tobi, Sasuke, and not even Kabuto here, because Kabuto wouldn't even have the reanimations that would essentially make him be on Tobi's team, so he wouldn't even be relevant here. This would then lead into Naruto and Killer Bee still training, and Naruto getting KCM, and they would eventually go out into the war, stopping the Raikage, and eventually defeating a bunch of White Zetsu clones, and eventually encountering Tobi himself. Tobi would have still defeated Konan and got Nagato's Rinnegan, and eventually have defeated Naruto and Killer Bee, and is giving them a really hard time, until Kakashi and Guy then come in to save Naruto, and when Naruto is seemingly defeated, Naruto would activate KCM2, thanks to him and Kurama finally befriending each other. Now, in the originals, they still managed to figure out who Obito is, and with no Madara interfering in this timeline, they would all gang up on Obito and eventually defeat him since they are figuring out the trick to actually counter Kamui. Eventually, Tsunade and the Raikage and Inoki and Gaara and Mei would have come to the battlefield, and the 5 Kage, Naruto, Guy, Kakashi, and Killer Bee would have worked together to actually defeat Obito. We could have Inoki amping Naruto to the point to where he's actually so light that he can blitz Obito and actually hit him with Rasengans, and eventually Obito would be killed. And I think here, like, Naruto would be giving the finishing blow, but wouldn't fully kill Obito, and he's just kind of laying there slowly dying, and here Kakashi would give the finishing blow, having a final talk with Obito, and he would know that he never caused the war because of Rin, and this would then lead into Kakashi apologizing for Obito for what he did long ago, and then he would kill him. Black Zetsu and White Zetsu would be the only threat left, and they would be defeated, and Sasuke would come to Naruto and everyone else, and Naruto and Sasuke would have one final battle, and it would be EMS versus KCM2, which I would say Naruto in mid-battle would actually discover Sage Mode KCM2 and defeat Sasuke. Maybe you can have Sasuke's rage taking over and actually giving him an amp mid-fight with Naruto, and maybe Naruto holding back, and maybe them killing each other and them going into their 6-path forms. But regardless, I feel like later on they would eventually discover it through training. Maybe we could have Sasuke and Naruto discovering the powers in the last, maybe with Sasuke going through brutal training, or maybe Naruto fighting Toneri and maybe dying and then discovering the 6-path powers. But regardless, I feel like it could definitely happen later on. But regardless, I feel like Naruto wins and still becomes Hokage later on, and with them getting their 6-path powers regardless, Boruto's kind of played out the same. And that's really where we are going to be leaving our what if for right now. The war arc is kind of shorter, and it's easier for our heroes to actually overcome Obito and the rest of the White Zetsu army and even Black Zetsu. And this would eventually lead into the story playing us similar to in canon. No Kaguya, no Madara, obviously, and Obito would be the final villain. But yeah, this is where I'm going to be leaving this story off for right now. What did you guys think of this what if? Did you guys like it? Did you guys hate it? Let me know down below. Like this video if you actually enjoyed it. Share with your friends, share with your grandma, share with your mother. Also subscribe, hit the notification bell if you are new. That way you're notified and updated every time I upload. Be sure to follow me on Twitter and actually join my Discord. And with that being said, I'm going to get up out of here, guys. Peace out. Thanks for watching once again. Bye.